evening. I'm calling this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, good evening, Planning Commissioners. Commissioner Moyer.
Here.
Commissioner Van Antwerp.
Here.
Commissioner Lefevers.
Here.
Commissioner Benefield. Here. And Chair Allen.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any introductions, presentations, or announcements?
I do not have any for you this evening.
Okay, now's the time for public comment on matters that are not on our agenda but within our jurisdiction. I have two speaker slips so far. Alan Koch.
Now I'm on. Good evening, Planning Commission Chair and Commissioners. This is my third time, I think I'm making a general comment in front of you all. I think I had my previous ones were I have in front of me, back in August, where I shared with you some Surfliner Inn environmental impact, adverse impacts that we, my wife and I, submitted on behalf of the notice of, what do you call it? Notice of P? What? Notice of perspiration. Thank you. And then I came back on October 6th to talk to you a little bit about the Walker study update and the days that they selected to have a count of the usage of all the parking in the downtown T. Okay. Now those two are clearly underneath the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission, because you'll be seeing that sometime down the road when the Surfliner Inn gets to you all for your review. Tonight I have a related item. It's just an FYI in the sense of the Surfliner project, and it's related to another review process that's going on sort of in parallel with the traditional community development department under Nick's purview, and Mindy, who's the lead planner on that. Everybody understands a completed application comes in, ARB, okay, EIR if it is, ascertained that should be done. Planning Commission, and then the City Council. But really, a Surfliner Inn also has a sort of a business review process going on, just supporting that. Okay, it sort of starts with a an RFP, and if you find a partner that you want to go forward with, it goes to the exclusive negotiating agreement and the LDDA, and subsequently, if the project successfully gets through this development process, and the council approves the signing of a 55-year ground lease. So that's sort of like the business review. Back in April of this year, the community development department sent an RFP out to do an environmental analysis about the Surfliner. And I was here as a guest, public guest, and I was just blown away by the response from the consulting group who replied, and who was the top candidate coming up from the development department, and to recommend City Council to approve it. There was a lot of analysis, a lot of detail. And that sort of just set a little bell off where I said, I don't recall anything similar to that related to an RFP for a developer group that would come in not only to build the hotel, but to operate the hotel for 55 years. So I just went back and did a little digging, and
Mr. Koch, you've had about 4 minutes now, so
Okay.
I'd like you
Okay.
to wrap it up if
Thank
you
you.
could within
Thank
a
you.
minute. Thank you.
I will. So I just did a little digging there, and basically, there was not any kind of documentation. There was requested documentation to be sent in a certain format. The list is included on the RFP, and I could not find anything. I've been in communication with the city manager over the last 8 months, and they actually confirmed through like a Freedom of Information request, nothing. There's nothing. They didn't have anything. Bottom line being, if you look at the staff report, I appreciate the extra time, Chair Allen. If you look at the staff report recommending to the city council to select the timer group, the only thing that was there in the discussion, and it's attached to the email I sent yesterday, is that there's a willingness to work with the city to further analyze a hotel on parking lot 3. So it just amazes me that they spent a lot of money on the RFP. They didn't use any of it. But I understand at the same time, they wanted to come up with a developer who could help them further define the project also at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker slip I have is from Nathan Pratt.
Good evening. I'm here to, looking this over, I'm here to recommend that you be sure to allot yourself enough time to really process this project.
Excuse me, if you're addressing the project on Maple, that's coming up. This is the
No.
time.
Sorry, I didn't, the Surfliner project,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Thank you.
Like the previous speaker, I got interested in what was going on, and I went to the city clerk, Brian, and asked him what I could get on the file, and there is almost nothing in the file. That is correct. So, and as you know, you did do a very extensive RFP, and it requires a lot of information to be gathered for your use to analyze this project and whether or not you want to approve it or not. So just looking it over, I'd say you have at least 3 months minimum to gather the information that's in the RFP. Because the only thing that you've gotten is basically a very preliminary, you got your architectural stuff and all that kind of deal, but other than that, you got nothing. No pro formas, no estimates. Your transaction terms are very thin, and the lease that was written up, I don't know who prepared it, but it looks like it's very tenant-friendly. To really, if you really want to capsulize what happened here, I mean, I got a note from Brian saying that the RFP process evolved, and I think collapsed would be a better word for it. The RFP was just kind of pushed to the side, and I don't know how this exactly got through. I asked for copies of the approval process. He said there was a meeting, 2 meetings between a group of which there are no documents to support what happened in that meeting or how the approval was granted or how that all happened. This project raises just as many questions as answers. So I think you're going to need at least 3 months because you got December off, got January, February minimum to gather all the stuff that's supposed to come in the RFP. Then you need 30 days for you guys to review it. Then you're going to come back to staff with more questions, more clarifications, give them 30 days to give you what you want additionally to clarify that. Then you need another 30 days for final review, and then you're going to have to go to a vote to approve or disapprove the project. And I count that up as 6 months minimum to get this project resolved. And one thing I want to throw in very quickly, I hear fear that people say, well, if we don't approve this project, there's going to be a lawsuit by the potential developer. And I'm looking at the RFP, and there's a paragraph right there saying, city reserves the right to alter the selection process in any way, withdraw, deem proposals non-responsive, postpone selection, make a new RFP, do whatever you like. So I would say the concept of any fear by developer action is minimal, and would be, if anything, just abusive and would actually open them up to liability if they did try and sue you. So I don't think there's any fears there. It really, the thing that just, you cannot look at this stuff. This stuff takes time to look at. And you need the time to do it. Staff can't give you something a day or two ahead of time and then go, here, let's vote it on Friday. You know what I mean? I would give yourself 30 days every step of the way, back and forth. That's what you really need to go through all this stuff correctly. And there's so many missing elements that you're going to need a lot. And staff's going to need to do a lot. And you might need to hire outside third parties to do stuff. I don't even know if staff's qualified to do all this stuff. And, I just wrote a little list of, you got your financial impacts, you got your EIR, you got your operating performa, you got your capital performa, you got your parking analysis, you got your land use analysis, and that's not even bringing in issues about why there was no bidders on this project. This is prime real estate. And to have no bidders is really questionable. And the way the paperwork looks like it was pushed around, you had one straw bidder that wasn't really a bidder to make it look like there's two bidders. This kind of thing happens all the time in development. You bring in a straw bidder. If you're having an inside pocket deal, you put in your offer, you bring in a second bidder who disappears, and you become the bidder, and then you have sole negotiating rights, and you're controlling the process. So I think you guys need to be aware of that as a potential and act accordingly. And just give yourself time to go through this. Do not be rushed. Do not let staff say we're short or whatever. Give them all the time they need to figure all this stuff out and get you the information. And you guys need to take the time to really review it and analyze it. And then come back with further questions, because there'll be something missing. You're going to ask for a pile of stuff, and they're going to give you almost all of it, but not quite. And just go through it all. So that's all I'm here to say.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the... Did you want to ask a question, Commissioner? Yes. Yes.
Question for me?
If you're willing.
I'm available. Yeah.
You mentioned that you spoke with a Brian who,
Who's the city clerk?
oh, okay, thank you. That's all
Yeah.
that was my question.
He was
Thank you.
well, I came to building or planning, and they said, well, all that kind of stuff is city. Talk to this guy. So I talked to him, and he's been my contact for information.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public present who wish to address us? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone online?
If you would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. There's not public comment at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Then we move on to the consent calendar, which is the minutes of our last meeting, which was November 3rd. Any comments? Anyone ready for a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're moving on to the new public hearing, which is our second look at the Burgess Burke resident remodel and addition. This is a time for disclosure of ex parte communications. I have some to disclose. Now, this is the time when commissioners should reveal anything that they know that other commissioners might not know, so that both the other commissioners and the public and applicant know what we know, so that it's a fair hearing and there are no surprises. So these maybe go a little bit, usually we just say we went by the project, but because of the nature of this hearing, I think I should be a little more specific. First, I did go to the address. I went into the right-of-way section of the driveway, so that I could look and see what the view was on both sides as you back out of that driveway. I noted that you could see oncoming traffic to the right as you backed up to a point. Then the tree blocked it, and a couple, 3 feet further, you could again see. I also noted that if there was a parked car in the driveway, that blocked visibility more than the tree did. I'd also like to disclose I've got a tree at the same location in my driveway, which is larger diameter. It is a wider driveway So whether I am that close to a tree depends on whether there's a car in my driveway. And then I drove around Concha Loma and Calle Ocho and observed locations where visibility was similarly impaired by largely by hedges along there to the street edge, and the fact that along Calle Ocho there are no sidewalks along that area. So those are things that I just think I should disclose as part of the framework for my review.
Okay. We all of us do it?
Go ahead. You want to start,
Okay.
Jane?
I went to the property twice. I took pictures. I don't know if I should give you this picture now or later to show the width of a very large car and that there is plenty of room there. I also, the neighbors,
Excuse me, probably you should show the photo now so that we
Okay,
have it and we'll pass it
here it is.
around and also to staff.
the neighbors came out to talk to me. I don't know who they were. So I did speak with some neighbors. I can't think of anything else except I've been there, checked it out, and have a very strong opinion about it. So that's it.
Commissioner LaFevers?
I visited the site again and observed the tree. I also did a tour of some of the similar streets in the city just to see what typical driveway interferences were with street trees.
Oh, yes. Commissioner. Go ahead.
I did the same thing. So I went by for a second time and spent quite a bit of time looking at the driveway, looking at the tree, noticing the size of the tree, whether or not there were any exposed roots of the tree. I saw a lot of succulents and things like that that had been planted there, but that was about it. And then I ended up walking up and down the street to look at the other jacarandas there, similar sizes. They were healthy. I looked at the trees and they were healthy. And similarly, I spent some time as I was going around the neighborhood the last over Thanksgiving weekend, looking at trees that size in the neighborhoods, and saw quite a few. And that's it. That's
Okay.
what I observed.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yeah, I drove Maple Street. I was more concerned about the condition of the rest of the trees and where potential new trees could be planted in lieu of this tree being taken down. So, and I was interested that the trees on the east side of Maple, they don't look as healthy as the ones on the other side. And I was wondering about that, why they're the ones on the east side are small, a lot of them, and don't have the foliage that the ones on the other side have. So, anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Now is the time for the staff presentation, please.
All right. Good evening, Chair Allen, members of the Planning Commission. We are here again for the Burgessburg residents 1 month later. Yeah, it's an interesting situation with after the Planning Commission last time. I learned some of the whys from the Public Works Department about the history of of their conditions for the tree removal. So just to refresh your memory, on November 3rd, you guys reviewed the project to construct the 1,836 square feet of additions to the existing 997 square foot single-family residence for a total size of 2,833 square feet with additional first floor living space, a new garage, and entirely new second floor. The maximum height would have been 21 feet and 10 inches above grade. New landscaping and hardscaping. The new driveway off of Maple Avenue and removal of the street tree was part of the project we reviewed last time. And then also included the conversion of an existing one-car garage to a storage room. So the history is the Public Works initially reviewed the project and conditioned the project to allowed the removal of the street tree and to replace the street tree and to have the new driveway meet the current driveway standards. And that was in the very beginnings of March of this year. Then the ARB reviewed the project, and one of their comments was that the driveway should be realigned to help keep the jacaranda street tree. And then last month, the Planning Commission reviewed the project and approved it with an additional condition of approval to retain the current driveway configuration and thus preventing the removal of the jacaranda street tree. Following that meeting, Public Works clarified that the tree removal was necessary for vision clearance. So here we have the street tree and the driveway. The existing driveway, by the way, is only 10 feet wide. We didn't have a scale at the last meeting. I think that came up as one of the questions. It's actually 10 feet wide, not 12 feet wide like we thought. But here's the site plan. The new driveway would have an apron that would meet the city standards for driveways, and then the tree would have to be removed. And John Lawson's here to answer questions about that. But it was the backstory of how those conditions of approval came to be that I was not privy to until after the meeting when I went to ask them about how to make the driveway entrance, the apron, if that was going to work, the existing one. So here's photographs of the existing driveway. I took these this morning, actually. So here's the tree in question. You can see it's right here, right next to the driveway, the existing 10-foot wide driveway. Here's, if you're in the driveway, like backing out, I took this picture. So right here is where, it blocks the view. There were no cars parked here when I took the pictures, obviously, but, if a car was parked here, that would be additional blockage. And then here's looking south at the tree. Here you can see this truck here, and there's another car down there. But you can see how it's right there next to the street on the side of the driveway. And then here's looking north the other way, and you can see there's that truck that was in the other picture that's just on the other side of the driveway. So you could see backing in or out, it would be additional view blockage. So when the project was before you last time, without this new information about why Public Works was supportive of having the tree removed, you guys approved the project with the additional condition of approval to maintain the existing driveway access in its current location with minimal expansion to avoid damage to the tree, and that the plans needed to be reviewed for compliance with this condition. So now we're back here again today asking you to revise the conditions of approval to eliminate this added condition based on the new information that we gleaned from Public Works following the Planning Commission hearing, and essentially reapprove the project as it was originally presented on November 3rd without this condition of approval and with the removal of the jacaranda street tree and expansion of the driveway to meet the current apron standards. With that, our action options tonight are number one, which would be to adopt the resolution with the revised conditions of approval, which is staff's recommendation. Or alternatively, number two, direct the applicant to revise the project and return at a future meeting. Or three, conceptually deny the project and direct staff to return with findings for denial to a future meeting. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. I have a couple questions which I'm asking first because may guide our consideration a bit. And the first is procedural. Should we not accept the recommendation, what would the procedure thereafter be? Is there an automatic appeal to City Council? I have never in quite a few years here seen a situation which you're inviting us to consider one way or the other, where potentially we might not agree with a condition put on a project by Public Works or any other entity that typically independently put conditions on projects. So what happens should we not agree?
Well, in our standard condition, in all projects, we have, I think it's 29 in this one. We have a standard condition that minor changes can be approved by the city manager or the community development director, Nick in this case. But major changes require filing of a modification application to be considered by the planning commission. So when this new information came to light, Nick and I discussed it, and we decided, due to the amount of discussion that happened at the November meeting about this tree in the driveway, that it warranted coming back to you to revise the conditions of approval. And I'll let Nick elaborate on the nuts and bolts aspect of that.
Okay, I'll ask one other question,
The
then
procedural part.
maybe for Nick as well. This went to hearing before the ARB, which also recommended retention of the jacaranda tree. And between that time and this, we did not hear, at our last meeting, we did not hear a position from Public Works. So I don't know if that's a question so much as a comment, and maybe it deserves comment, and maybe it doesn't. I'll leave that to Nick.
It was new information after the meeting when I reached out to Public Works after the Planning Commission hearing to have them look at the existing driveway apron and to see if that was going to be adequate for them, at which point, and John's here to elaborate on this, I was informed that part of why they were supportive of the removal of the tree and the expansion of the driveway with the new design was because they felt the tree was an obstruction to the ingress and egress for the vision, sight distance.
Okay, so I'm not sure I understand. So after our action was when Public Works was contacted to take basically another look at it?
Yes, it's more of a clarification, but yes, because we showed the project to them initially when it first came in, when it had the 16-foot wide driveway and the tree to be removed, and then it went to ARB, and they narrowed it down to the 14-foot wide driveway with the tree to be removed. And then the project was approved for the condition to retain the existing driveway. And then going back to, so it was new information. The why was apparent from Public Works after we already had the hearing, if that makes sense.
Questions from commissioners? Do you want to start?
Was it a 3-2 vote at the ARB?
Let me double check the minutes through the chair.
That shows there's a lot of conflict.
Let's see.
I think it was.
It was a 3-2 chair at the ARB meeting, but as I recall from the meeting, and I'm not going to read through all the minutes here, there were also a couple of the board members that had concerns about the history of the property and the long-term maintenance of the property and the landscaping, that also played into that vote, I suspect,
Okay, thank you.
when you read the minutes.
Commissioner LaFevers, any questions of staff?
I guess, I mean, I almost hate to ask this question. I would like to hear from our Public Works fairly soon here on this project, but I'm curious, the applicant at our last meeting received approval of the project with the conditions that were specified by the Planning Commission. And then, if I'm interpreting it correctly, Public Works conditions were added that were inconsistent. So my question really is, does the applicant have the ability to accept the approval as it stands and from the Planning Commission without removing the tree, or does that just put us into this question that Chair Allen asked about, where there's perhaps a conflict between jurisdictions here?
Through the chair, I'd like to maybe take a stab at providing a little bit of clarifying information here, and then we can hand it off to John Lawson to talk a little bit more about it from a Public Works standpoint. But to Commissioner LaFever's question or comments, so I want to first clarify that the Public Works condition to remove the tree had been proposed as far back as at least February. So I think initially at the time, we interpreted it, we meaning staff, planning staff interpreted that condition as being in response to the proposed plans that called for widening the driveway, and there was no way with the widened driveway to accommodate the tree being preserved. And so we didn't really question it at that time. It was just accepted, you know, if the driveway gets widened, the tree's got to come out. That's what Public Works reviewed. Public Works agreed that the driveway should be widened, and thus they conditioned the removal of the tree and left it there. And so then at the last month's hearing, when it came up with your commission that you wanted them to try to modify their driveway design to preserve the tree in place, we accepted that thinking, and the applicant accepted that thinking that that was feasible. And so then after the fact, when we started working on that in more detail with the applicant's architect and Public Works, that's when it came to light that no, this really isn't feasible to do because the existing driveway is so tight on that tree that we can't even necessarily keep the existing driveway cut and modify it to meet current standards in terms of like the radius turns there into the driveway. Because if you soften that radius turn, even that's going to encroach further onto the root zone of that tree. And then John also clarified that there was other safety considerations with wanting removal of that tree for line of sight. And so really there's, you know, I think just more nuance and detail that came to light after the meeting that we weren't privy to or hadn't, you know, had reason to dig down into prior to last month's Planning Commission hearing. And with that, I'll hand it over to John to maybe give you any more details about the ins and outs of the designs and why the tree doesn't work for that location.
Thank you, Nick, Cindy, Chair Allen, Planning Commissioners. Just like my colleagues have reported to you, when the Public Works Department initially for review, which was in January, and Public Works Department prepared a condition of approval memorandum in February, it was, at that time, it was proposed for removal. So for clarification, the conditions or what the Architecture Review Board has conditioned the project, it was after the fact, and this is how Public Works Department, I myself is here before you. And also I wanted to point out in the conditions of approval, yes, it says removal of tree, but it also says plant a new tree. So we remove and replace a tree, and it's subject to the approval of the Public Works Director. And I could go into, again, the tree itself, and based on the technical, or the technical feasibility of what is proposed as far as the driveway apron, that particular tree, in our opinion, that it is going to be compromised. And at the time, we had an in-house arborist, Tiffany Smith. She's no longer employed with the city, but it was she was consulted because she was part of the Public Works Department, and I recall that this particular tree was looked at. No, an arborist report was not prepared. However, it was looked at the time as like yes, if you were to cut these roots or make these improvements that would cut these roots, yes, that tree would be compromised. And then that's what Nick would just mention. Okay, let's look at this a little bit more. Let's look at the disposition, and that's where I come in terms of traffic safety. And as you're also your city traffic engineer, for the designated city traffic engineer. So I looked at this particular disposition of the tree, and this is not typical. This is not ideal to put a tree right next to a driveway apron, and you have ingress, egress, sight distance issues that I see. And you're seeing a photograph of a front view, but there's also photographs of side views. If one were to egress from the property, you would have that sight distance. I just like you, Chair Allen, I did my site visit, just did a quick turn or reversal. I was like, for me, it was hard to see. And so I physically went there myself and did the turns. So we have a particular tree that it's not ideal location. It's a beautiful tree, and we try, as far as Public Works Department is concerned, we try to preserve every tree. We maintain every tree. But in every removal, we have replacement. And the replacement is, must conform to our street tree management plan. And I believe that as far as a traffic safety perspective this is not ideal to have. We analyze site distance all the time in Public Works Department. And it warrants a removal, in my opinion. But we could also plant another tree in that regard. And that would be, we could either condition it as part of the project, or Public Works part, we're planting trees as part of our work, our scope of work. I did confer with Cindy in regards to also the fire department requirements. I believe they have particular width requirements as well, and that would affect the width of the driveway apron. So the tree, if the project is going to go forward with what is proposed, what I reviewed as proposed, a driveway apron of 14 feet wide, that tree would be compromised. And for your information as well, being that this particular tree does pose a potential traffic safety issue, per the municipal code, the director of Public Works has the authority to remove any tree, any street tree that would pose public safety hazard.
Then, as I understand your last comment, irrespective of what action this commission takes, you would have the authority to essentially
For your information,
move
it is
forward.
brought, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I didn't mean to cut you off there. But it is the municipal code that the Public Works Director has the authority to remove a tree, a street tree, that would pose a public safety, public health risk as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exercise it's not exercise all the time, but it has to be a special circumstance or a circumstance where something would potentially pose a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Or
And one other question is, when you talked about the tree roots being compromised, what was the assumption as to, under the approval that the Planning Commission gave, assuming that our condition stood and it remained at this width and then followed the contour that we proposed, have you looked at that? And as I understand it, the driveway would not widen until it was a distance quite a few feet further than where it is now located. In other words, if it's now 2 or 3 feet from the edge of the driveway, with it curving in to accommodate entry to the garage, that curve wouldn't take it any closer to the tree than the existing driveway is. So I guess I'm asking how would that compromise the tree any more than it's compromised right now?
Mr. Chair, Councilman, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission, I believe I'm following you. I'm imagining what you are describing. I know this is not, you don't have privy to the particular information I have in my hand, but it appears to be a concept from the designer of record that shows the particular radius of the curbs for the driveway, similar to that's being modified. And I think I understand what you're saying, kind of skew the driveway apron to...
It would curve,
yeah.
As you enter the driveway, after passing the tree, it would curve to the right a little bit to allow entrance to the garage.
Technically, that could happen. That could work. It's
It
little
just seems to me
unconventional.
it's no closer. It would be no
Yeah.
closer to the tree than it is now, but
Yeah.
less, in fact.
Mhm.
Just kind of do it instead of coming straight in, just kind of do like
Yeah.
a little curve.
I'm just looking at the one issue of tree roots, and
Mr. Chair, Planning Commissioners, this is something I'll need to analyze with the designer of record, but I think see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay, I was just getting at, I hear that the tree root issue, and I don't know that that's part of our consideration, really. But,
Right.
okay.
I have a question
Questions?
for John.
Commissioner Benefield.
Can you do another slide that shows that tree more clearly? Okay,
Wait, which one?
the other one. Yeah. See all that debris at the bottom of the tree, which does impair vision? You can cut all that off. Those are just little spur things that shoot out. That would make a lot more space. Not to, oh, never mind. I won't go into that, but that might help a little. Yeah.
Commissioner Benefield, through the chair. I see what you're saying. Yes.
Clean it up.
The diameter of the tree, mature tree, still is that particular site distance issue. We could trim the tree, the topping of the tree, or the top of the tree, not topping of trees, but top of the tree. That particular debris that you're mentioning, yeah, that could be removed. What I'm referring to in terms of my perspective or my opinion of the site distance is the actual diameter of the trunk. So it maybe in.
There's so many trees that are in the way of driveways. Are we gonna rip them all out? Because it doesn't track for me.
Commissioner LaFevers? Okay, I'll go that way.
I wanted to, I'm concerned about the fire department. What's the fire department say about it?
Yeah. Through the chair, Commissioner Moyer, I did reach out to Mike LaMonaco over at our fire department, and I asked him about the driveway. And he said since there's a hydrant close enough that they would not need to drive their engine into the property in the event of, a fire. And so he said that the width of the driveway as it is now is fine, not meeting. Right now it's 10 feet wide. Their standard is 12 feet if they need to get an engine in. But since they don't need to pull an engine in, he said it was fine remaining at the 10-foot width.
Great, thank you. And then I have one more thing I'd like. So is the issue with the site, the tree being in the line of sight, is really secondary because people are parking their car, right? And they want to get as much parking spaces as they can. So I can just.
Can you pick up Commissioner Moyer's comments on the feed? Commissioner Moyer, I think you have to either get a mic or come back here to speak because it can't go on the record if you're over there like that.
Okay, here we go. So go back to that one image where you're in the street looking at the property. There, okay. So now, to really address the issue of visibility, you need to paint that curb there red. And that doesn't happen anywhere in Carpinteria. And mainly, I would assume it doesn't happen because you don't want to have to discount street parking. Am I right? Because if there's, like I have this situation over on Hogan, and where the trucks, a line of trucks park right next to the outlet that I use, and you can't see. I mean, it's the truck that's the visibility problem. So I'd just like to throw that in. Thank you.
Commissioner LaFevers?
Yeah, if I could just go back to staff's comments about feasibility here. So I think at our last hearing, it was the consensus of the commission that we keep the driveway in its current location at its current width, which I've heard a couple numbers, but I think I heard 10 feet tonight. So my question is that feasible to do? Can we, you know, are we violating some of our standards by not upgrading the apron to the current standard configuration? I mean, in this lot, it's already conditioned to have non-conforming setbacks and other conditions. So I think perhaps what some of us are struggling with here is that we recognize that, you know, a wider driveway would be typical for a new redone construction, and under different circumstances, it would perhaps be preferable for all of us to have that. But I think the question is, if we want to stick to the project that we already approved, is it infeasible to do that? And this is aside from the sightline issue. I think that's been addressed by others. I'm just talking about the feasibility of the driveway, existing width. If the apron has to be rebuilt, is that feasible to do?
Through the chair, the Public Works two things are going on, right? So the Public Works conditions say that some improvements at a minimum will need to be made to the driveway apron off the street to better comply with today's standards, which on the right-hand side in this photograph, to get more of a sweeping curve would obviously impact the tree because it'd be moving the curb closer to the tree. The other thing that John was saying, and if he can elaborate on this, is that the situation of the tree is that now that it's been brought to his attention more predominantly, is that the tree might end up being removed no matter what, whether this project moves forward or not. So he can elaborate on that to clarify, but it's blocking the view, so it's
and
where
I
we are.
realize there's other criteria here, and I accept that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I'm just asking about the driveway itself as we had envisioned it. Is there some reason why we can't, that's not feasible to do?
Can we hear what they're saying? Can they speak into microphones, please?
He was just asking me the minimum width per our code for a driveway, which is 10 feet, which is what this one is mostly 10 feet, except for that one little spot where it's like 9 feet, 11 inches.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any
Okay.
more questions.
Commissioner Van Antwerp, do you have any questions of staff?
Well, I'm not so sure it's a question, but I'm seeing, thank you, Public Works, for bringing this information forward, but I'm seeing it still as more of an opinion. I'm not seeing any new evidence. I'm not seeing that the condition is unworkable. I don't believe that the applicant has met the burden of changing the direction of the Planning Commission's decision from last month. I don't see it. I don't see anything
Okay.
new.
This is more in the nature of our discussion,
No.
but yeah, that's good. Are there any further questions of staff? Anyone? Okay, well then I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if the applicant or applicant's representative wants to address us at all on this this issue. We all understand the applicant was willing to go forward as it is, so you can
Well, and again, we took the information back to the city because as we drew it out, we didn't see it being possible. And so we were looking for what the options might be, because replacing the sweeps on the driveway, and I don't know, can I show you what was drawn out so you can see?
Circulate it.
Make sure the green light's on when you're back there, please.
I'm sorry. It is on. So, again, the architect started that same night working on drawings. We were there the next morning, 7 a.m., doing measurements and trying to figure out how to make it work. But in looking at it, and again, with the change of the sweep, it's cutting into the base of the tree. It's not, again, it's not something we came back trying to get rid of the tree. We went with the intent to try and figure out how to make it work. But we're not seeing a way to make it work without damaging the tree to a point that it's unlikely to survive, because we have to replace all the curbs. And replacing the curbs with the tree being that close, we just don't see how it could work, because we got to replace the curbs and the gutters.
Well, thank you.
So that's pretty much it for me.
Okay. Thank you. For me, that raises a question of staff that I'd like to ask at least. I see the design. Is this something that you had that you were reviewing earlier?
This is the preliminary design that they brought in as the discussion item after the meeting on December 3rd was the meeting, so December 4th, I think it was, they brought this by, which is what started the conversation with Public Works about them wanting the tree to just be removed rather than to try to retain it.
Okay.
So that's when the conversation started about.
Okay, so I have a
Yeah, it's the same that we had during our conversation.
I have a question for John. That more standardized sweep, the entrance to the driveway, I understand that would be a standard kind of curve, if you will, as opposed to what is existing. But in terms of flexibility that City Public Works may have, recognizing that, of course, safety and turn radius and all that sort of things are at issue, but also recognizing that this driveway has been in that configuration for many, many years. Would there not be some, assuming the commission wishes to proceed with this, and given that I think, in that case, we'd all want to see the tree survive, couldn't Public Works alleviate the requirement that the curve be that great or extensive?
Mr. Chair, yes, that we receive, Public Works Department, we receive many times design exceptions. This would be a design exception to the standard.
Okay, that's what I was inquiring about. Thank you. Did that open up any questions that commissioners had?
I have a
Okay,
question.
Commissioner Moyer?
Yeah, they said that in the last meeting, they said that they were going to install a sidewalk. Is that correct?
Commissioner Moyer, through the chair, that I believe is a condition of approval from the Public Works. That's a standard condition of approval.
Oh, because I've got this letter here from.
Well, before you ask that question, let me just ask, I haven't been considering this a hearing de novo of the entire project. Could you clarify that for us, Nick?
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad you brought that back up. I didn't have a chance to discuss that previously. So I think procedurally, the way I would consider this hearing to sort of fit into the process, given, the approval granted at the last hearing, is that if your commission were to approve the project tonight in some revised configuration, that would supersede the approval. If your commission does not approve a revised project tonight, then the previous approval would still stand. Does that get to your question? So, I don't consider it a fully de novo hearing where your action today would set the stage going forward necessarily.
And I asked that because I didn't really consider the sidewalk issue to be on the table again,
It isn't. It's something that came up again after last month's hearing when Ms. Short, who submitted the letter, had contacted the city to say, what's this I hear about sidewalks going in? We had an agreement with the city council going back, decades that we would never do sidewalks here. And so I explained that that's, kind of standard boilerplate condition language that Public Works places on projects that an applicant's responsible for whatever required frontage improvements are necessary. So typically that's curb, gutter, sidewalk in a traditional situation. But to John's point with design exceptions, right, we have any number of neighborhoods where maybe that isn't quite the standard, like in parts of Conchaloma or parts of the beach neighborhood where there aren't sidewalks, there aren't plans to put in sidewalks. And so what I had told Ms. Short is those types of decisions in terms of what the required frontage improvements will be is typically something that gets ironed out later in the process when we get into the engineering permit. And that's when, right, Public Works would be working with the architect or the civil engineer to say, hey, this is the driveway design we use in this neighborhood, or this is the sidewalk design, or in this case, maybe we don't require sidewalks, right? And I don't know that those kinds of decisions have been fully ironed out at this point. So the condition language in there is kind of more.
Within, is Mr. Eliason has said within Public Works exceptions as they look at the sidewalk.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That help, John? Understanding, yeah.
I live in a neighborhood without sidewalks, and I don't want them either. So, I mean, that's got a lot. That's a big signature thing about what Carpinteria small beach town's all about. And this seems to be a discretionary judgment here that we're going to make. I've come to. I'm a tree hugger tonight. I think that tree's going to stay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we aren't in deliberation yet. So are there any more questions of staff that have come up with this discussion? If not, I'll continue with the public hearing, which I opened earlier. And I do have one new speaker slip, again from, Mr. Pratt. Nathan?
Didn't mean to speak on this, didn't even know about this. But I have moved in many big trees, like bringing in 20, 30 trees onto a property, 10-foot, 12-foot boxes, cranes, the whole bit. So I've had some experience with the tree thing. I think your happy compromise of opening the radius a little bit if you wanted to try and create a little more of egress into that driveway. You could do that very simply. You're not going to be going that deep on your curb cuts and on your new curb pours, maybe 18 inches down, maybe, kind of a thing. So I think if you wanted to round it out a little bit, leave it, fairly square, but give a little more curve to it, you could do that quite easily. But on the other hand, to be frank, I mean, how much traffic is on that street? Right? This is not a high traffic zone. I think the concept of line of sight doesn't really apply here. This is not a signalized intersection or something like that. And I think that the value of the tree, to go buy that tree is about a $50,000 tree. It's no joke. So if I was a property owner going into a project, I would not want to open the can of worms of is my project approved or not approved again over a $50,000 tree. And by the way, you want to buy that tree plus have it put in? I think you can work out a resolution and keep the tree. It doesn't seem to be like a gigantic issue, really. I mean, I know that Public Works has their, standards, and everybody wants to do things by the book, and, but I think the traffic level on that street, I don't know if there's a traffic study. Has there been a traffic study at that location?
Okay, yes.
Whatever, anyway, just,
we
what I
can't
mean?
have a dialogue with staff. Thanks.
It's not a biggie.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Yes. Come on up.
Forgive me, Chair. I came unarmed. And Commissioners, thank you, and staff. Patrick O'Connor, resident in District 5, also a member of the ARB. I did review this project, and I did speak at the last meeting. I just want to bring up a point that is probably out of the bounds just based on the de novo discussion that we just had, but I think there's a bit of an elephant in the room. The reason that this tree is a problem and the driveway is in that location is because the rest of the property and the project is non-conforming with respect to setbacks on the other side and that back building. So I would really urge the owner to consider the right thing versus what he can do, but what he should do. Put the driveway on the south side of that property, run it into the back to serve both the back building, and redesign the house for the garage on that side that's needed for the fourth garage spot. And be kind to your neighbor and get that 3-car driveway easement back to the neighbor. That's the elephant in the room. That's the reason why we're standing here, making all these crazy things about this property. It's really not a good project at all. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public present in the room who would like to speak to this project? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone online?
If you would like to make any public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, Dylan Chappelle, I'm gonna allow you to talk. Okay. Your mic is on now, so you can talk. Yes. No, his mute button is off. If that doesn't work, you can go out of the call and then come in again. That usually works. Try going out and then joining to the meeting again. I will allow you to talk again. Okay, he's rejoining.
In the meantime, Chair, I'll just acknowledge for the record that we also received the one written public comment from Linda Short that we've already sort of gotten into about the sidewalk requirement.
Yes, we have all received that.
Okay, now you can talk.
I don't want to speak for the owners, but is our intent to save that tree. It's not on our property, and so I think we have an issue with Public Works. It was my understanding that regardless of the apron improvements to the driveway, the location of the tree and the obstruction of the sight line was a safety issue. And so even if we did no improvements, the recommendation from Public Works would be to remove the tree. So if there's a design exemption for the frontage improvements from Public Works, that the sidewalk would not be required. I mean, there's no other sidewalks on that street. The updating the radius of the driveway would not be required. then the tree could remain. I think in support of Public Works, the safeties and concerns are their life safety and health that he's concerned about. And there is a lot of existing non-conforming situations in Carpinteria, and it's why we love it. And we do try to retain those situations a lot of times. This one just happens to be a life safety issue for that area of the street. There's not much traffic there. I think that it would be a closed and shut case if it was a busy intersection. But there still is people on that street walking around and people pulling in and out of the driveway to consider as well. I mean, that is a big, beautiful tree. I would love to keep that tree. But if somebody got hurt due to a car backing up out of that driveway, no matter who that is, I would put their safety above that tree. But it's really, I don't think it's the applicant's choice. It's not the design choice. It's really what is the Public Works Department going to allow? And I think I heard John say, like, essentially, no matter what we decide here today, he has the power to remove that tree because it's a safety issue. And that's not a choice any of us can make except Public Works. So, we're here to work with you guys and help figure out whatever we can. It seems like a gray area, but that's all I have to say, and we're here to answer any questions if needed.
Who is this speaking?
I'm Dylan Chappelle, the architect.
Have you finished your comment, Mr. Chappelle?
I'm done. Thank you, you guys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's no one else online wishing to speak?
If anyone else would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. There is no more public comment this time.
Okay, then I'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation. Would you like to start, Jane? You raise your hand.
I'd like to start because I have a lot to say about this. I've done some research, and it's a topic that really unnerves me, that is cutting trees down. I've always loved jacaranda trees, although we say jacaranda, and if you can say that. We had a huge one in our yard, and we never entertained the idea of chopping it down. Used as street trees, they provide a beautiful shade canopy, decidedly a positive public benefit. They serve so many purposes that it's criminal to destroy them. The lifespan of a jacaranda tree is 50 to 75 years, but they live to be 100 if they're taken care of, and these trees are not under stress. So 100 years, and they don't all drop dead at the same time either. So this tree will probably last a long time. But now we have a proposal to kill the tree for no other purpose than a dubious driveway widening. The actual driveway can accommodate a huge Jeep SUV with room on each side to open the doors. I had a picture. I don't know what happened to it, but I took a picture with that in mind. Further, why on earth can't the driver enter through the easement in the rear and pull forward to their new house? They might have to move a couple of things, but they have all that back parking and access to the property through the back. You say the tree is a visual obstacle preventing safe exit. I don't think that's true. There are several driveways that back out on Maple with no problems. Importantly, the bottom of this tree can be pruned to establish a much clearer view. And most cars have backup warnings and cameras. The applicant has not been a good neighbor. Cutting the tree down is a cherry on the top. The house stood empty for 30 years, cited by the city and overgrown with weeds and debris, to the consternation of the neighbors. And now the final blow, before you build this overly large house, is to cut the tree down. I feel differently if it was necessary, if it was reasonable, if there was an actual safety issue. I believe this rote judgment is incorrect. I say again, the applicant have plenty of rear access, safe and with spaces for 3 cars, plus the house's driveway. There's no hardship here. Remember, these trees provide a lot they provide a lot. Reasons to deny the tree are, this is public property. The trees in the right-of-way are public assets maintained with taxpayer resources. And you just heard this gentleman say they're worth around $50,000. And putting 2 new little sproutlings in there won't do the job. Most jurisdictions have adopted urban forest management plans, tree canopy goals, or climate action plans that prioritize maintaining or increasing canopy. Removing the tree contradicts the adopted policies and sets an undesirable precedent. Street trees provide shade and cooling, stormwater management as they reduce the runoff, air quality benefits, and wildlife habitat for mainly hummingbirds. These are the street trees significantly contribute to the visual character, property values, and curb appeal of the entire neighborhood. My observation is that I think there are like 15 trees of jacaranda on this street. Many are close to the driveways, no different than this applicant. Allowing removal for the convenience rather than necessity invites similar requests. Staff Commission must maintain consistent application of tree protection policies to avoid claims of arbitrary approval. If the tree is healthy, structurally sound, and non-invasive, there is no legitimate arboricultural, good word, justification for removal. Planning bodies usually take the tree down when there is a diseased tree or it's a major public safety issue. Neither of these apply. Alternatives available are the applicant can redesign the driveway to fit the tree, shifting the alignment or using alternative paving. Site restraints do not rise to the level of requiring a public tree to be removed. Even if the applicant pays for the removal, the city suffers loss of long-term tree value, ongoing maintenance savings lost. Replacement trees take years to provide an equivalent canopy. Right-of-way trees may be removed only when there is no reasonable alternative, and there is a reasonable alternative here. Driveway expansion is not a necessity, only a preference. Residents view street trees as community assets. Removing the healthy public tree for private desire undermines the trust that may be viewed as inequitable use of power. Now, I have a whole more, but I'm not going to stop there. I mean, I really basically covered everything, and now I'm going to start repeating, and then I'm going to start getting agitated. So I think what I'll say is there's no way I'm going to approve this change of condition. And for the record, when trees come in, I'm going to be looking at them with laser vision, because we can't just keep cutting trees down. So that's my thought, and I'm a no vote.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next? John?
I've started off viewing this more as a safety issue, but after listening to all the presentations, I think it's more of a discretionary situation, and I would just leave the curb alone. We don't need a sidewalk there, and you could just keep the curb radius. It's worked this far, and leave the tree alone. I mean, even taking the surface down 18 inches is going to have an effect on the tree, and I think that just should be left alone and deal with it. That's my feelings.
Thank you. Next. Glenn?
Sure, I'll go. I'll try to be brief. I don't believe we should change any conditions of the previously approved project. My preference would be the conditions stand as they were, and I would agree with others that we would ask staff to work with Public Works to look at the apron, the radius, in a way that avoids the bulk of the roots from the jacaranda tree, such that the tree could be retained. We're just, our purview is the project itself, so that's my preference. That the drive, there's this project, is an upgrade of the existing facilities. We're extending the life of the use, the non-compliance on the property, and I support all of that. And I also support keeping the driveway and its, at least the apron in its current location. I don't think that's an unreasonable request. And so I'm not exactly sure how we do that. I mean, my request is we don't, approval already stands the way it was, and that staff work with Public Works. I will comment that I do not challenge the authority of the Public Works Department and the director to make decisions with regards to street trees and other items within city property and right-of-way. So I think that's a completely separate matter and should be handled separately. For us, it's the project, and that's my request, that we try to work the driveway around the tree.
Okay. Alexandra, any comments?
Yeah, thank you. What bothered me the most about this was that it did seem to me that it was sort of a situational removal, if is the only phrase I can really come up with when I read this, that it was an ad hoc type. I'm not saying that the decision-making process was not thought out from Public Works and staff, but we have these policies and an entire committee that reviews a valuable public asset. And I believe there is an annual review of the street trees, unless I can be corrected there. And so I really wanted to make sure that we don't make a decision about a street tree that, by the way, from what I remember, the jacaranda is considered like one of the, I saw several graphs in some of the research I did on city sites, our city site, that showed that species of tree is preferred. It's one that we have used a lot. And we weren't able to say, there's a process for all of this. So this particular issue in front of us, I think that we do have policy, but it was not demonstrated to me this evening. We do have an aging tree population. I believe that there has been some discussion at City Council just even a few months ago by Public Works that discusses this. And that's really where those decisions need to be made, not on an ad hoc basis. So I believe there's no necessity or changed circumstance from when we reviewed this last month. And so I also want to make sure that we understand that trees, there's actually a value, I wish I had the chart in front of me, I don't, that shows how valuable a resource, it is. It's a financial, it's a pie chart, and it shows it. It's right there. So I can't repeat anything. Jane did an excellent job. John did too. Glenn in explaining why this is such an important issue. So again, it's not something that I will be looking to change at this hearing.
Okay, thank you. My comments are, I guess, first, that I agree with my fellow commissioners. Second, I'd like to simply say, as I think I said at the beginning, I can't recall a question and situation in many years when I've, even approached questioning a public works condition or anything like that. And I hope that this isn't perceived as that. Safety is always a paramount concern of us all, and certainly of public works. And I know that that's what was, it was a consideration. But then, as we've discussed, there are balancing considerations, and there always will be, because if safety was your only criteria, there are many things that we couldn't do, couldn't allow, and we would approach many things, resource permitting, differently. For example, obviously, or maybe not so obviously, but cars parked along those curbs, as somebody pointed out, create a worse vision obstruction, and they can legally be parked there, than the trunk of the tree. And it is a judgment call, and as I said at the beginning, when just disclosing my personal observations, you can see oncoming traffic and people, assuming there are no parked cars, as you start backing out the driveway, and it's only for a short interval. I think the trunk diameter is 20 inches, something like that, that you do have visual obstruction, which moves as you back out. And well before the back of a standard size vehicle is, into the street in a travel lane, you can fully see, again, assuming there are no parked cars obstructing your vision. And then the other consideration, going back to how you just balance things and what you'd have to do to be fully safe, is there are so many examples of visual obstructions like this that exist throughout the city, and you can't red curb everywhere, and you can't take care of them all, and you wouldn't want to. You have to also balance those considerations with people do need to care for their own safety, and people in general appreciate the public value of street trees, and they're a very important value in our community. So balancing the two, I agree with my fellow commissioners. And as has been said, I'm hoping that Public Works can, make the exceptions with the curb cut, and that this project may proceed as originally conditioned. So that's where I am, and I have one question to staff of Nick. None of the three options as drafted fit our circumstance. So how about doing a motion for us where we keep the project as conditioned at our last hearing?
Chair, what I would
simply state just that, if you wish, but
what I would recommend is just that the commission make a motion to conceptually deny this resolution, and then typically we would have to then come back at the next meeting with a formal resolution for denial. But after you conceptually deny the resolution, then the applicant could, if they're amenable to it, just request to withdraw this request to revise the conditions of approval, and so then that would just put it to rest, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, I'll invite a motion from a member of the commission. Go ahead, Alexandra, or whoever. Glenn?
So it would just be a motion to conceptually deny this resolution and direct staff to return with findings for denial of this particular request at the next meeting.
So moved.
Second. I'll second it to move us along. Okay, then the applicant has heard this, this representative has heard this motion. Would you wish us to proceed as staff suggested?
Again, from our standpoint, we didn't see a way to comply.
Okay, you need.
Yes or no?
Point, we simply didn't see a way to comply with the requirements as they were presented to us from a driveway width. Again, if we can leave the curbs as they are, my preference would be all the curbs and not put a sidewalk in. Our concern is, again, we want the tree to live if the tree is going to stay. So we just want to avoid damaging roots.
Okay, I think in this procedural situation, the commission can't assure all of that. But in this position, if you don't want us to return to another hearing,
Right.
you need
Again,
to.
we're fine as long as it's something we're not going to have to come back because we cannot comply because of the requirements. That's,
Yeah, again,
and so yes.
Nick, would you like to restate where we are right now? So it's clear.
Through the chair. So if from what I think I'm hearing, right, is you're agreeable to going back to what the planning commission approved at the last meeting of keeping the driveway more or less as it is and preserving the tree in place, and you're comfortable with that so long as Public Works will work with you on granting you the design exception leeway to accommodate that.
Correct. 'Cause
So
we
then.
don't want to be falling back and forth without the ability to move forward.
And I don't want us to be in that situation either. And so if the commission conceptually denies this revised project tonight, then we would traditionally come back at the next meeting with the updated resolution for them to make that denial official. However, if in the intervening time you send Cindy a note and say, hey, we're fine with adhering to the project as originally approved at the November hearing, we withdraw our request to revise the conditions of approval, then that would just put the whole thing to rest, and we don't need to come back here to hash this out any further.
And that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. I hope this works out well for everybody. Okay?
So I think we have the motion from Commissioner
We do, but we don't
Lefevre's.
have a vote yet. Let's do a roll call
Need a
vote.
second, I think, still too,
I
unless.
second it.
I thought, okay. We have a motion and second. Should we do a roll call vote?
Sure. Commissioner Moyer.
Eh,
I'm sorry, was that?
yes.
Yes, sorry. Commissioner Van Antwerp.
Yes.
Commissioner Lefevre's.
Yes.
Commissioner Benefield.
Yes, is yes the right vote?
And Chair
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you. Okay, so we are now on to the other business. Is there any other business?
I have nothing for you under other business.
Okay, are there any matters to be presented by commissioners? Any commissioners have a report they want to make, or question, comment? Well, we can do that when we get to the calendar, I guess.
I have some,
Oh, okay, go ahead. Alexandra?
two things. First, I wanted to, I attended the Beacon meeting last week, I think it was. And I believe one of our council, a member of the city council at the last city council meeting also talked about this. But there was an amazing presentation at the last Beacon meeting from the California Beach Resilience Plan from Dr. Charles Lester of University of California, Santa Barbara, Ocean and Coastal Policy Center, and Dr. Kiki Patch, if I'm saying her last name correctly, of California State University Channel Islands, Department of Environmental Science and Resource Management. And it was amazing on beach erosion, sea level rise, how from a planning, long-range planning perspective, and even now we're learning it's much more short-range than we thought. Things that both the City Council and I believe the Planning Commission should be looking at. And so I was just hoping that it's something, Nick, I'm not sure quite how to do this, but to request as well, along with City Council person Julia Myers, that we bring this presentation in front of the Planning Commission in some form. So that was one comment that I had. So I'm not sure if that's one. And then I can move on to my second item, if that's okay. But go ahead, Nick, if you had something to say about the beacon.
Through the chair, thank you, Commissioner Van Antwerp. I haven't seen this particular presentation, but we could certainly reach out to the Beacon folks and see if they recorded it, and if they did, maybe we could, at minimum, at least make it available to all the planning commissioners, or somehow figure out a way to, put it out there more widely to the community if there's interest. I don't know if we're a big enough draw to get Dr. Lester or Dr. Patch here to make a personal presentation to us, but I suppose we could ask about that as well. And then while we're on the topic of sea level rise, I did just want to mention that this is something that's addressed specifically in our general plan update. So there's a whole brand new element or chapter to the general plan that will be looking specifically at coastal hazards, and that was one of the big reasons for doing the general plan update, was to kind of create the policy basis for that, so that then we can follow on that action by actually crafting regulations to start looking at how we plan for and account for sea level rise in future development decisions in the city. So it's, it's an iterative process. It's going to take years to get there, but it is in the works.
Right.
I'd like to hear that too.
Excuse me, you had another item?
Yeah, but did,
Oh,
Jane.
well, no, you could go forward,
Oh.
finish your comments.
okay.
I thought you had something else
I
to
had
present.
one other completely nothing, that had nothing to do with Beacon.
Well, that,
You want me to
you
go
can
ahead?
with,
Okay.
yeah, you
Okay,
were
all
speaking,
right.
so I'll let
Okay.
you finish, is all I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, this is one of the things that, I brought this up before, and I know that there are some folks this evening that brought up the Planning Commission review of the Surfliner Inn for the project. And I am also concerned that as we get closer to this hearing, there's actually a lot of information that will not be included, of course, in the EIR, that stand outside of the EIR. And it seems to me that because there have been there have been several people who have brought forth to our attention that there may be some process issues that go back quite some time ago. And this would include the original RFP and the scoring, E&A and amendments, that's the exclusive negotiating agreement, the LDDA and how that sort of set the pace for the public only really looking at that the land use as an inn or a hotel. So I have some concerns that we never really had an opportunity. My understanding, it's never been in front of the Planning Commission before, that we've never really had an opportunity to take a look at alternate land use, alternate ways to use that land and how it would benefit the city. I understand that that will be part of CEQA and the EIR to a point, but there's a lot more that's gone on. So I actually have a list of non-EIR materials that I think are very important that the Planning Commission be able to review. And my biggest concern is that this is going to be a hearing that there's been a lot of community input over the years, and that it's going to be a lot for us to understand and assimilate, because the information, the full procedural history of the project, a fiscal public benefit, I think this is public land, And I want to make sure that we have a grounding in understanding how this has unrolled to where we are and the processes. So I wanted to bring that up now because I didn't want it to come down to like 72 hours of, suddenly we've got a stack like this to go through. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to piece this out so that we do get this information. And I can be I can give you a little more detail about what I'm looking for, could be now or another time.
Through the chair, Commissioner Van Antwerp, thank you for that. And, I appreciate your concerns, and I recognize that there's a good number of folks in the community who share some of those concerns. And I don't want to dismiss them, but I do want to make clear here, right, that in the case of the Surfliner project, the city as an organization is wearing sort of two hats. Right, they're wearing the hat of being a landlord, which is being managed through the city manager's office, which is addressing some of the things that you're talking about, right? The ENA, the LDDA, some of these different steps and processes that were went through to select a developer and operator and to enter into some sort of agreement with them. And then there's separately the city's hat as land use authority, as being responsible for reviewing the project that's before them and making a decision on whether the project is or is not consistent with city policies and regulations. And so, to the state, right, we've tried to maintain kind of this firewall where planning is responsible for the land use portion of the project, and the city manager's office is responsible for the landlord pieces of this arrangement. And so when this project comes before the Planning Commission in the future someday, your role is really going to be on those land use matters, right? Does this project comply with the city's zoning requirements? Does it comply with the city's general plan and land use regulations? It doesn't mean that those other concerns out there aren't valid. It's just that they aren't necessarily within the purview of the Planning Commission. And so if folks want to discuss those other kind of elements of this project or of this agreement, the proper venue for doing so in that case would be through the city council, right? And so when this comes before your commission, we're going to be more narrowly focused on the project itself. And then if folks want to debate or question those other elements of the project, it's likely going to be appealed to the city council where that kind of higher level policy discussion can take place.
Yeah, I think in this case, it's a public-private partnership, and it is a land use issue. And I'm even going into things like, well, we just talked about sea level rise. I mean, we will need more of that information.
I can't get in, I don't want to get into it in too much detail
hear
here
you.
tonight because
I
it's
know.
not agendized. It's not
Yes,
something we can
and
really.
we should not discuss it.
We can really
amongst
deliberate, but-
ourselves right now.
Yeah.
I don't mean you can't say more, but I don't want to see a deliberation among other members of the Planning Commission.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly revisit this with our legal counsel, but that's kind of been, sort of our strategy and arrangement with this project from the get-go is that there needs to be this firewall, and it's sort of handled through two different parts of the city so that the planning process can remain objective and not be influenced or steered by, kind of these other more landlord-tenant, type considerations.
Okay, well, I think we do need to have further discussion, but thank you so much.
And I would just finally add, right, that for anyone who's interested, planning commissioners or members of the public, a lot of the information about the ENA process, the LDDA process, and so on is on the city website. It's all available there on the Surfliner project information page. So folks can go and pull up those old staff reports and read through those materials if they're interested in learning more about the history of this project.
Okay. Any commissioners have any reports they want to make? Okay. I'll just simply note that today is the first day of the city ordinance closing the beach in the area of the seal haul out and rookery, basically from Tar Pits Beach, Jelly Bowl, east and down to the Higgins Ramp going down to the ocean there, including the pier area. So for 6 months of the year, the city officially closes the beach, and for the rest of the year, harbor seals are on the beach all year round, unless they are disturbed. And the most common cause of disturbance is people walking on the beach, and that's also usually the cause of the most severe disturbances, where all or almost all flee into the ocean. So we encourage people, by we I mean those who are involved in protecting the seals, such as the Seal Watch organization, we encourage people to stay off that section of beach all year round, because if you walk it, you won't see the seals, and nobody else will be able to either, which is too bad for the public's enjoyment. So that's my
I have a question.
announcement.
There's Nick, there's a scheduling of the general plan update committee on this next calendar for the 15th. I don't think we have a reason to meet.
Jane, that's maybe a good segue, if there's no other matters by planning commissioners,
Yes.
into the director's report.
Let's go on with the director's report.
Well, I
so-
can never get it in the right place, but you know what I mean.
So in this month's director's report, you received a copy of the minutes from the September 25th ARB meeting, a calendar for the month of December, and activity reports for planning and building permits for the month of November. And so, to Commissioner Benefield's point, there is a placeholder, a recurring placeholder for the GPUC meeting that shows up on the city calendar, but we are not anticipating holding the GPUC meeting in December. We're right now working with the consultants to get started on the EIR process for the general plan update, and so that's going to keep us busy here for the next few months, and I don't anticipate us needing to convene the GPUC here while we're in that initial process. And then you also received, I think Lorena gave you all the proposed schedule of Planning Commission and ARB meetings for the 2026 calendar year. And that concludes my director's report, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to the last item, which is attendance of commissioners at the next meeting.
I should clarify, I don't think we're going to be having the January 5th meeting. We don't have anything ready, and that's going to be coming up right after we're coming back from holiday break when City Hall's closed. So I'm anticipating that hearing's likely to get canceled, which would make our next Planning Commission meeting February 2nd, I believe.
Okay, what are the dates, just for, if anybody's still watching, of City Hall closure?
Yeah, so City Hall will be closed to the public beginning on December 24th and then reopening on January 5th.
January what?
Monday, January 5th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, attendance January 5th and, well, maybe February 2nd, if anybody knows.
Yeah, I can't.
Looks like we all expect to be at all those meetings, both those meetings. Okay, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, Nick.